The moment of truth, the moment we all have been waiting for is right here. I want to take this opportunity to welcome my guests in studio, and I want them to introduce themselves and of course to let us know what they do. And of course I'll start from my farthest right.
Okay, so my name is John T. Slater and I work for a company called ChallengeWorks, which is a UK-based organisation that runs competitions, challenges, prizes. We run programs to stimulate innovation around the world. And my colleague?
Hello. Well, first of all, a huge thank you for having us here today. It's great to be here. And my name is Naomi Whitbourne. I'm managing the Mombasa Plastics Prize.
Okay.
And we work, as John T says, for ChallengeWorks. And Mombasa Plastics Prize is one of the many programs and prizes that we run across the world, and really excited and happy that we are here in Mombasa trying to tackle the growing challenge of marine plastic waste.
All right. Thank you very much. And of course, you've mentioned. I would like to start from how does the challenge come to be? Because for there to be a challenge, there must be a need to address. I want to understand, how did this challenge come to be?
Yeah, happy to take that one to start us off. Well, the Mombasa Plastics Prize really started as a vision last year. We started conversations alongside an amazing organisation, Proportion Global, who've been running the programme since alongside us, alongside many other Kenya-based organisations. And there was a growing recognition that the challenge of marine plastic waste is not one that was about to go away. 850 metric tonnes of waste is in Mombasa. Only about 5% of all waste is recycled. 20% is plastic. So there seemed to be a really big opportunity to tackle this challenge. And I think we came to the collective realisation after some really rigorous research with Mombasa-based young people, that actually young people, and specifically those in their late teens and early 20s, could be a really, really important part of that solution to try and tackle this growing challenge. So really that was where the Mombasa Plastics Prize came about, this recognition both of the problem, which I think we can all agree is one, and of course not specific to Mombasa, across Kenya and globally, frankly, but also the huge opportunity there was to really get the young people of Mombasa at the heart of creating the solutions. So hence, Mombasa Plastics Prize was born.
And I just want to say that with the population of Kenya getting younger and younger, the average age getting younger and younger, how do we stimulate innovation? How do we get young people to start thinking about the new ideas, what ideas they can do to change their community, to work with their community? How can they do this? How can they do something that's local but also can have impact around the world, that people can take ideas? What can they learn from all what's been happening around the world as well? And how can they localize it for their community? And looking at how do we work in informal settlements? How do we work with young women? How do we work with people across the whole of Mombasa? Just taking this idea. Because without us stimulating young people, and without young people being able to own the idea, not just having to work for somebody, not just having to hustle on the street, how can you bring that idea and actually make it into a business that can have a future for you? How can you do that? And Kenya is known across the globe as entrepreneurs. Kenyans are known to be, let's create the new bus, hustlers, setting up the businesses. How can they do that? And how could we tap into that? And connect it with a problem that we are all having to deal with, which is plastic waste. Plastic waste is key for us now. If we don't solve this problem, the key thing that's always the scary thing for me is, if we don't solve this problem very soon, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish.
By 2050, right?
If
not before.
This is where it gets really scary, because how many people in Mombasa eat fish every day, or eat fish a couple of times a week? Everybody eats fish. It's what Mombasa is known for.
Actually,
and how do we make it so that actually the catches don't get smaller? How the catches get bigger? How the catches can think, and they're not having to catch plastic in their fishing nets. They want to catch fish.
For sure. And I understand the program, usually you release, or rather advertise it. What is very surprising is the number of people who apply. how do you what criteria do you use to determine, this is the kind of person we are is going to be in the program?
Well, just before,
Yes.
I want to thank Swahili Pot Hub, because Swahili Pot Hub really helped us recruit all of the participants to this program. Swahili Pot Hub, as a major organization in Mombasa,
Hi,
is
everyone.
known
This is good.
to be dealing with all of the problems that to stimulate innovation. And they were a key partner in recruiting all of our participants. Now, Naomi can really talk about what we then used to select those amazing individuals who all submitted such interesting ideas.
For sure.
Yeah. So just to kind of take us a little bit back to the application stage,
Yes.
as you just mentioned. So this would have been back September 2022 that the prize opened, and they wrapped up in about November. So there were a few months to sort of spread the word, if you like. And as Jonty said, Swahili Pot Hub were absolutely integral to get the message out there. But we worked with Swahili Pot Hub as well as Proportion Global, who I mentioned earlier, to make sure that the assessment and the application process was really accessible to a really wide group of young innovators in Mombasa. We wanted to make sure that nobody felt they couldn't apply just because perhaps they didn't have the strongest written English, or because they weren't sure that it was a program that would quote unquote be fit for them. We wanted to have a high number of young people from informal settlements, given that, as Jonty mentioned, that was a real focus of the Mombasa Plastics Prize. So we did a video submission to make it a little bit more accessible for everybody, given that, as I say, sometimes written English isn't as comfortable. Totally understand that. So we did a video submission, and we got over 140 submissions for the Mombasa Plastics Prize back in November last year. We, on the back of both, a mixture of in-person information sessions, which, as you mentioned, were really run and driven by Swahili Pot Hub. So that was sort of in-person sessions where people could drop in, find out a little bit more about the prize, but also a big social media splash so that people can find it that way as well. And as I say, on the back of all of that, and as I say, I hope a more accessible way to apply, we got 144 applications, and it was then a pretty rigorous and pretty systematic assessment process that followed, that we really carefully assessed a number of different criteria which were set out at the beginning of the sort of assessment process, if you like, and we followed them very systematically to make sure that we were trying to keep the assessment process as fair as possible. And after all of that, and some deliberations and consultation with our assessors, our sort of team of experts, checking all of that, we found 60 finalists.
And I understand you actually, after selecting the 60 participants, you actually place them in teams. Why the teams? Why should they work in groups and not as individuals?
I think it's really interesting when you ask people to create an idea. When you do it in isolation, you only think about your own experiences. You don't think sometimes about what other people bring. And when you bring people together and you form them into teams and they become this nucleus for this idea, they all bring their own experiences together, and it allows ideas to evolve and change and be exposed to different parts of it to create a new idea, because every individual may come with their own idea, but what may come out is going to be so much more powerful than what was the original idea that the individuals came with. So bringing people teams together was to allow us to create more powerful ideas and also feel like they have a support network built in. Because if you're running something by yourself, everybody who knows, who runs their own business, who runs it by themselves, can sometimes feel very isolated. They're having to hustle just for themselves and think about their family. But when you've got more people who are also bought into that idea, your idea becomes much more powerful. Now, how we got to the teams, Naomi can talk about, because bringing people together, 60 individuals together, and trying to let them match up and work together to create 14 teams, that was work that took so much more than you even realize.
Of course, I think we'll get back to that after a short musical break. And of course, when we do come back, yes, I understand it takes it's almost more than 6 months between the selection and the finals. So I want, when we do come back, we want to see what happens in between here. And of course, if you're joining us or logging in right about now, this is the Drive Show with Man Like Ipto, of course, with wonderful guests telling us more about marine conservation and opportunities, of course, for you as young men and women.
When you switch on your radio, it's pure vibes. Make no mistake. This is Blue Radio. Bringing the vibe.
All right. 21 past 5 o'clock. Davido with Unavailable, of course, playing right here on your number one urban radio station. Of course, if you're logging in right about now, thank you very much. And of course, this conversation, of course, is tailor-made just for you. And of course, if or rather you are making the time to join us, follow us on our social media pages at Blue Radio KE is where you can find us. And of course, any questions for our guests, please kindly direct them right there. And of course, before we go any further, I would like to remind you of our social media question of the day. What is that one question you should ask on a first date? Of course, I would like to take this opportunity to engage my guests before we go a little bit further into the conversation. Of course, I'll gentlemen first.
Oh, the question on the first date.
Yes.
For me, the first question I asked my wife was what type of food she likes to eat. It was about the food. I'm always the person who thinks about what is for breakfast, what is for lunch, and what is for dinner. You can tell I like my food. And so the first question I asked was, what type of food do you like?
Amazing.
And I got a very strange answer that I still haven't solved the problem of yet.
Till today.
Because she wants home-cooked food. That was her choice.
Wow. Amazing.
Oh, this is a tricky one because, I mean, so many questions to get through on a first date. I think, whether it's a question or not, but it's whether you can have a laugh together. So maybe you want to, see if they've got a good joke, or whether they take themselves too seriously. If they can dance a little bit, if they can do a little bit of a sing, that's going to be a bonus. So yeah, what are their hobbies? Are they something a little bit creative? And do they take themselves too seriously? If the answer is yes, then maybe you want to rethink.
All right, amazing.
What's your first date?
Good question.
My question on a first date, tricky. Actually, I hadn't thought about it, but of course, I would ask if I would get another date. Yeah.
You're already planning ahead for the next one.
I have to think. You're think ahead. Yeah. Now, I understand that after the selection is done, now the real work begins. After you as the challengers have identified, after you have identified the challengers or the challengee, now what happens between this period of time? What goes into making sure that these guys are molded into the experts or innovators they are supposed to be?
Yeah, good question. So it's been an exciting journey since January. So really January was when the finalists really started their innovations and we mentioned they got into their groups. They really started to come up with their ideas, their solutions, understand the problem further. So it's been a number of things, to be honest. On the one hand, there's been the training support, weekly coaching. So they've had almost 10 sort of training sessions, sort of quite formalised, but with experts in the fields that they're working in to help with their knowledge, experiences and expansion there. So they've had that. They've also had coaching, which has taken the form of sort of weekly coaching. They've each been paired with a designated coach, and that's for the sort of ad hoc questions, as well as a weekly coaching session where they can talk about anything from the specifics of their solution to maybe any issues they're experiencing as a team. Of course, anybody that's worked in a startup will know that that's a huge part of the process at the early stage. So there's been all of that training, support, development, and I think a lot of that's been around personal development as much as it's been business development, right? That's on the one hand. And the other part of the support package, if you like, has been the financial support. So we've given each innovator group 150,000 Kenyan shillings as sort of seed funding. And they have run with that in whichever way they saw fit. So some of them have used that to really build a prototype, and that was the sort of end goal, if you like, by end of April and early May, to get a prototype. So they've been using that seed funding for that, and for getting some really good merchandise, for posting around on social media, forming partnerships. So as I say, it's been the non-financial support side of it, the training, capacity building, coaching, and then some funding as well.
Amazing. And of course, on Mondays, I have a friend who was pitching. And of course, the first thing that came to mind is this is something that you have to be comfortable with. Why should they, understand the value of pitching? What does it offer to them and, of course, to their team?
So we give them multiple different ways to present. So before they get to the pitch, before they pitched yesterday, they had to submit a presentation. And they had to do videos. So we gave them multiple ways to interact with our judges, so that for people who maybe aren't as confident on stage and pitching live, that they could do the presentation, they could submit everything, and they could do more written content. So we wanted to give it a balance, because some people are much more exuberant and extrovert, and they're really willing to chat on stage and talk about everything. And there's other people that are quieter and much more thinking and want to idea. We wanted to give a balance between those. The reason we do the pitching on stage is to understand the team dynamics, is how the teams work together.
Okay.
Does everybody get a chance to, does everybody want to speak? Where have they added into the business plan? Where have they added into the prototype and the technology? So giving that chance to do it. Now, we didn't do it a public pitching, where we invited the public to see everybody. They only did it in front of a very select group of internal team and in front of the judges. So it wasn't that they were hugely exposed. We didn't ask them to present in front of like 250 people. It was more Dragon's Den than anything else.
Okay.
It was more around getting them the chance where the judges could ask them questions about their ideas. That was the key thing, is actually sometimes when you run these programs, you never get the judges a chance to ask questions, to interact with the ideas, and to be able to give feedback as well. And that was what happened yesterday. So all 14 teams got up on stage. They had 10 minutes to present. They had 10 minutes of questions and answers with the judges, and they were timed. And if they were running out of time, they were shown cards to say, you've got 1 minute, you've got 30 seconds, you've got 15 seconds, you've got to stop.
Wow.
And it's very much trying to be equitable and fair to everybody, so that everybody had the same amount of time, got the same questions asked by the judges, and everybody got that chance. And we did it at the amazing Swahili Pot Hub, in terms of the whole beautiful space looking out over the bay, and it allowed them to actually be very relaxed in that space. But I think that we could tell some of them were nervous.
For sure.
And I think that also comes through in terms of the passion. I mean, you can hear myself and Naomi talking about this. We're passionate about this.
We are passionate about it.
But we get our passion from seeing the innovators, how passionate they are about their things. Because we can run this program as much as we want, but if nobody interacts with it,
then it has no value.
It's not worth it for us.
For sure.
We only do this because we want to see the future. And the future is the innovators who have been through the process.
Amazing. And I understand that between this time, you usually bring in mentors, coaches, and that kind of people. What value do these individuals impact on the innovators, and why is it important?
The value can't be underestimated, to be honest. I think we've got to remember that these innovators, these new entrepreneurs, many of them are at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
So there's a steep learning curve. And that's everything we mentioned earlier, but that's navigating team dynamics, how to work with other people. That's understanding the plastic ecosystem, which stakeholders and partnerships and collaborations are important. And so there's been a hugely steep learning curve. And I think the coaches and the expert trainers have been able to really take them on that journey. And I think the other part, thinking about the more technical side, there's the more financial management. You know, there's so much that goes into sort of all things business that I think, they've been invaluable, to be honest. And I think, you know, looking ahead, it's going to be really key for the entrepreneurs to think about who are their mentors, even if they haven't got a designated mentor from the Mombasa Plastics Prize. Well, who else can they lean on? So there's the guidance, there's the advice, there's a sounding board. But the other part, and this is particularly around mentorship, is what sort of doors can they potentially unlock? What sort of partnerships can be created? Because, you know, again, many of them are at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey and haven't necessarily yet got all of those partnerships and those contacts, that network, if you like. And actually having someone else backing your corner, vouching for you and helping to unlock some doors goes a long way. Yeah.
For sure. And also the key thing as well that the mentors can bring in the coaches is do not know your role that you'll have within the business. Is actually looking at your skill sets and working, you're going to be the technical director, you are going to be the marketing director, you're going to be the person who's going to help deal with the finance. Being able to understand and see who has the skills, who wants that role within it, and then what they're going to have to learn because of that. And that is, the mentors are there because of their experience. The coaches are there because of their experience, of them being able to, having done this before. We brought in experienced people to be able to support our teams. We wanted people who be able to actually go and say, actually, this is what works. This is what's happened in the past.
Wow.
And I think that's the most important thing, is actually, you don't want somebody who's just got an MBA and has had no experience in life as the coach. That happens sometimes in these programs. Yeah. We wanted people who actually had lived experience to bring that in so that the teams could actually understand it.
Could understand and tap into it. Yeah. And one more question before we go on a musical break. Many of these individuals are very young. And of course, from what I understand from the prize or the end prize, it's millions of shillings.
It is 7.2 million.
To be precise, exactly.
In total.
Exactly. So how is it important, to impact financial and money skills into them, so that it's not only this time only, so that it can help them go a long way. Why do you give them such education?
Because when you have money in your business and you haven't got a plan in place about what you're going to do with it or what you're going to spend it on, sometimes you get distracted by thinking about, I need a nice car, or I need a pretty office, or I need to have a pen that's gold plated, or I need a new watch. It's thinking about what is their business going to be and how the best use of that money is going to be for their business. But we are rewarding them for what they have done. We do value. This is a prize competition. We're saying, if you have got to this stage, you deserve this money.
Okay.
And then we leave it up to the judges to select who wins at that point in time. But we need to, even if you haven't won, you have still gained those skills so that when you decide to do your next business or your business 2 or 3 times in the future, you can think back and go, oh gosh, that was an idea that really worked, or I really learned something from that coaching session. And we want people to be able to take away something from it. I still think back to 20 years ago when I had my mentor and my mentor was talking to me. I still think back to some of the things that he told me then, and I go, I now know myself repeating it to other people.
Exactly.
And it's that learning experience of going, this is what I was taught, but actually I've learned and I've made it better. I know, and that is what we have these things with in terms of the coaches and everything like that, is what the value that they bring.
Amazing. Of course, thank you very much. I want us to take another musical break. And of course, when you do come back, I understand that Naomi has a podcast. I would like her to tell us more about it when you do come back. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, at Blue Radio KE is where you can direct your questions. Right about now, I'm going to be playing you some Bien Inauma right about now. Of course, we are doing it properly. Nyashinsky Femi One, and it is playing right here on the Drive Show. Of course, welcoming you back to the urban experience is man like Kipto. Of course, if you haven't followed us, Maze, do the thing at Blue Radio KE is where you can find us. And of course, we are in the final stretch of this conversation. Yeah man. Of course, any questions for our guests, kindly direct them to our chat box or our social media pages. And of course, one of the interesting things I haven't asked is finding solutions for a particular community entails involving this particular community. In your blog post, you did a challenge in London where you involved, I believe, the mayor's office and part of the community.
Yeah.
Why is it important, to bring the community as an ingredient in these particular challenges?
I think if you don't engage local community, the idea can never be understood by the community and it can never be accepted by the community.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring something in that feels completely foreign, and while it can work for a small amount of time, it is not sustainable and it doesn't have any longevity.
Mm-hmm.
When the community understands it and they engage with it, they feel like that they then have ownership with it, and then they feel like they can be empowered to be part of this connection, that something isn't being imposed on them from outside. So I think this becomes when it becomes really key in terms of also, can the community help create the idea? So with the mayor program, the community actually was part of the engagement on it. But the same with Mombasa Plastics as well is we are required, each of the team, to actually come and actually go and engage with their with the informal settlements around Mombasa to see what they actually needed. They had to go and interview them.
Yeah, and just to add, I think we also need to think about what we mean by community.
Okay.
So of course, there's a few parts to this, right? There's local residents, people who are invested in understanding and also getting benefit from these solutions for people living there. But then there's also other stakeholders. You could say the government, you could say local businesses, other NGOs maybe. So there's that part of the community as well. And you also need people to keep momentum going, to keep it driving. So we're running this prize. We hope that the finalists have got a huge amount out of it. We hope that we'll be selecting some amazing winning teams. But what happens after that? You also need other members of the community to keep it going. That point around sustainability, well, that will only happen if you've got buy-in, if you've got local buy-in and drive. So it takes a village, right? And I think this is a key example of that.
Amazing. And of course, one of your major objectives is also to ensure that there is sustainability in after the project is completed. How are you going to ensure that these individuals and groups will proceed, grow, and scale their businesses? Is there a way you're going to be following up on them, or is it after the prize and also things end there?
I think our approach to sustainability has been baking it in from the very beginning. So what that means, I suppose, is that through our training and coaching is giving the finalists as much support as they need to be able to keep their ideas going to the next stage. So, the truth is that we're not going to be around running this prize forever, right? So there is an element of helping the finalists to help themselves and keep going through the right skills and knowledge base, which we've been supporting them with. But it's also connecting them with the right other communities and bases. So Swahili Pot Hub that we've mentioned earlier is a great example. That's now become a kind of quote unquote home for a lot of our innovators, the finalists. So they've now got a physical base, as well as being able to sort of leverage the various pitching Thursdays that Swahili Pot Hub have, and the other sort of community events that they can get involved in, and potentially other funding opportunities that they can hear about through organisations like that. They've also been working at Close the Gap Hub, again another great network where they can really learn from the resources that they've got. So it's been kind of helping to connect them with other groups that they can keep engaging with, as well as supporting to give them the skills that they need to be able to keep running with their ideas.
But community, just to say as well, is one of the things that a lot of the groups that have been doing as part of Mombasa Plastics is actually doing, like beach cleanups, is engaging with the local community to work out what they need to do? What can they do to help them stimulate business ideas within communities as well? And those have been amazing to watch and amazing to see. I mean, was it 10 tons of plastic has been collected by the teams already just in the last few months?
Wow.
Just because they've been doing beach cleanups and working with their communities. That's a huge amount. 10 tons is a lot of plastic. Everybody goes, oh, it's only 10 tons. Actually, 10 tons is a lot of plastic, only in a couple of months. And it shows what you can do when you work with the community, you motivate the participants in the community, and then you actually use that plastic for doing something with it. And that's what we've seen with the amazing ideas with the 14 teams have been coming to, and they were pitching yesterday, is everything from like building materials to new pegs to like how to recycle better to alternatives to plastics to board games to all these different ideas that were seen that were coming up. And like, can you convert plastic into 3D filament? Can you think about the future, about how production is going to be, so that you're not having to import things from other sides of the planet? Can you make things locally? And I think that's just where we were blown away with all of the ideas that people presented, because the teams are doing such really interesting things. And that's just where we need to really empower people to actually think about it. And what we would love the listeners to hear, while we may not be running Mombasa Plastics again in its current form for a while,
yes,
but it doesn't mean you can't stop thinking about your own ideas. What's your hustle? What's your next hustle? What is that business that you are now going to create that you can get your friends to be part of, that you will do it? Because it doesn't take a lot of money to start your first business. You just need to think about who's going to be your clients,
yes,
and what's that product you're going to sell to them.
You're going to supply to them.
And as long as you don't do anything illegal, and as long as you do something that you can look yourself in the mirror at the end of each day and go, I'm doing something good for the world, and I'm making my community better, then you can honestly go and say, I am making this planet for my children, for my grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren.
Amazing.
And Mombasa needs that, because Mombasa has been around for a very long time. And it needs to survive for the next 22nd century, 23rd century. And it's all about the ocean. And let's just bring it back to that, because this is all about marine plastic.
Yeah.
And we need to thank USAID and the Global Affairs Canada, who funded this work. While Naomi and me are talking about this, really, we couldn't have done it without USAID, the massive, amazing team at USAID East Africa and Global Affairs Canada coming and supporting this, and actually believing in what we're actually doing here, and believing that it's actually, that stimulating and working with these young people is actually so important.
Amazing. Okay, you're welcome.
I just wanted to add, though, that they have been absolutely amazing, and, you know, it is very exciting that we've been able to run this program, but that shouldn't stop locally based organizations, businesses, private philanthropists, seeing how they may be able to get involved and help take Mombasa Plastics Prize to the next stage. So it's great what we've already achieved, but let's also not let that stop other people. If anyone's listening thinking, cool, this is great and I'd love to get involved, we want to hear from you.
All right. Of course, in a while, I'll allow you to, direct them to where they can do this, of course. But right about now, I understand come this Thursday, the moment of truth, the moment the contestants have been waiting for will be in front of them. And the question on my mind and many of our minds is this the end, of Mombasa Plastic Prize? Will there be more of it? What should people expect? What is the future?
I would say listen in on Thursday. We can't say anything now, but we know that we have been speaking to our local partners. We've been speaking to the county government here in Mombasa. We've been speaking to other of our partners and really talking to them about what we think the future of Mombasa Plastics could be. And we hope that on Thursday, that's another reason to listen in, to come and listen in. And I'm sure the team here will also tell you about the outcome of it, but it will all come out on Thursday. That we can't tell you anything. We can't give you anything anymore.
But
all right.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
At least you've gotten our curiosity a little bit, our levels a little bit high. I will definitely make time to be there to find out what is the direction of the future. Of course, right now, I want to give you this opportunity to direct anyone listening, any young man, any young woman, where is it, they can find you, be it in the social media pages, physically, how, can they approach?
Yeah, great. Well, the one-stop shop for all resources, including finding out a little bit more about the finalist teams and what they're getting up to, is our website, which is, if I remember correctly, mombasaplasticprize.challenges.org. So that's the place to find all of the information about the prize and how to contact us, etc. But a particular shout out to any young people who are listening and thinking, if only I applied to the Mombasa Plastics Prize. I mean, I'm afraid it is too late, but as John T says, that should not preclude you from thinking about what your next business idea could be. Maybe there's a Mombasa Plastics Prize team that do something really interesting that you want to somehow partner with, that this, we hope, is the beginning of something really exciting, but that should not let any young person that is interested in this space to stop them from thinking about what their idea could be and how they could take that forward. And the other sort of call to action, if you like, is, as I just mentioned, to existing businesses, to governments, to NGOs, to potential philanthropists. If you're listening and thinking, I would love to get involved, I think there are so many more partnerships that could be created to help get these ideas from already really promising, exciting solutions to something really big. And we want to hear from you.
Amazing.
I would just want to say, if you want to listen, so we have, it's going to be streamed online, the final event. We've sold out of all the physical tickets. We apologise to everybody who's really interested in doing it, but we are going to stream it live. Just Google Mombasa Plastics Prize and go through the links and register. We've got an Eventbrite link where you can register online to attend, to stream it live. And I would say, be inspired by what you hear about it. Be inspired by the ideas. Go on the website as well and look at some of the ideas that people have come up with. Because we need to deal with plastic. We need to deal with looking after the ocean. We need to deal with our whole planet. And it only takes one idea that can change the world. And that maybe that idea is sitting here in Mombasa and somebody's got it in their head. Wow. And they just need to get that idea out there and try to do it. And that's what we're all here to do. This is what we're doing for all of the projects that we do around the world, is we just want to inspire that one young person to come up with that one amazing idea who is going to change the world.
Amazing. And the final question before I let you go. I understand a challenge is a journey. It has been a journey since, the ideation, the selection up to the final day. I want to hear from you. What has been that standout moment, that standout experience that you've had throughout this journey?
Oh, there are so many. I have to say, we had an event in March, our second hackathon, where we took the ideas, which in our first hackathon in January were just that. They were early seedlings of ideas. By March, they were prototypes, or at least low fidelity prototypes, the beginning of a prototype. And what was really exciting at this March event was getting the opportunity for our finalists to show their prototypes and their more developed ideas to the Afri Plastics Challenge finalists. It's another prize that we run right across the African continent, with more advanced entrepreneurs, if you like, as well as having officials from the Ministry of Education. The PS was there, incredible group of people to be able to witness what they were seeing. And I think just seeing the finalists and the reaction they were getting to the solutions that they had developed at that event in March was amazing. And it just went to show how far their ideas had come in just 2 months.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Honestly, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for allowing us to talk about Mombasa Plastics Prize. And on Thursday, we're going to hear who the winners are.
All right.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We can't wait. Of course, I see 1 minute shy of the top of the hour. Of course, this is where I get to let you guys go. It has been amazing. I do hope we can do this again. and again and again. And of course, when the opportunity comes, please consider Blue Radio for more chances. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once more. This is the Urban Experience with Man Like Ipto. Right about now, I'm going to be serving some fantastic tracks, of course, while I give my guests a chance to have a sip of water and, of course, to head on to their